Greetings, this is Dr. Don Whitaker. Welcome to the fourth and final presentation for the Ideal Weight Adjustment System at Ohana Chiropractic and Wellness Center. Today we're going to be talking about living a healthy lifestyle. As a reminder, the purpose of this program is to set you on a path to improved health, including a healthier, more desirable weight. It's not a crash diet. We do want you to be able to lose weight if that is your issue. We want to help you by removing barriers to releasing excess weight and to help set you up for maintaining a better weight and assisting you in creating a healthier lifestyle. And so that's why this last presentation is kind of to pull it all together. As we've talked about before, it's not necessarily a question of whether you're eating too much. It could be that you're eating the wrong things or eating in the wrong times. It may not even be that food is the problem, although it could be. There's lots of reasons for excess weight. As we've talked about in the past, there's a long list of things that create excess weight, and so we do our best to address as many of these as possible. One of the things that we have to do in order to lose weight and to look better and feel better is to reduce inflammation. Remember, when you step on the scale, you're seeing not just fat, but it could be excess water and things like that, that create these excess pounds that you see. So one of the things you can do to help reduce inflammation is to reduce your omega-6 fatty acids. These are the kind of fatty acids you see in a lot of processed foods, potato chips, French fries, things like this. Any kind of vegetable oil that things are cooked in, like crackers, things like that, usually are high in omega-6 fatty acids. Omega-6 is an essential fatty acid, so we do need it in our diet, but most people get too much. What we do need to do is increase omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids are the kind you find in fish oils and flaxseed oil. Omega-6 tends to be more pro-inflammatory. In other words, it causes more inflammation in your body, whereas omega-3 is anti-inflammatory. So if you want to reduce inflammation, you need to cut down on omega-6s or eliminate them and make sure you're getting plenty of omega-3 fatty acids. Of course, you want to avoid foods that you have allergies or intolerances toward. So anything like that would create inflammation in your body. You can avoid these foods, or we do treat allergies. And so if there's allergies that you have or you suspect allergies, make sure we check you and get those treated. Maintaining proper alignment in your spine and the rest of your body will help to reduce inflammation. So regular chiropractic adjustments will help that. And of course, you want to exercise regularly to keep your joints fully functioning. Inflammation can also be caused by stress. And so I tell my patients to avoid all stress, but it doesn't always work that way. So we want to make sure that you do what you can to reduce stress in your life and to clear trapped emotions. And so that's something that we can help you with. Another thing that will cause inflammation is toxins. And so I'll talk more about toxins later in this presentation. But you want to avoid toxins as much as possible because they will create inflammation. Increasing your potassium intake will help with that. Exercise, of course, is another important part of maintaining a healthy lifestyle. When you exercise, it improves your circulation and respiration, and so that helps your whole body to function better, helps your metabolism to be stronger. It increases your joint function, so you can move better and have less inflammation. And it helps move out toxins. The lymphatic system of your body is like the sewer system that carries out the toxins and the byproducts of metabolism. But you know how your heart is the pump that drives your circulatory system, your blood through your body. The lymphatic system doesn't really have a pump like that. The movement of blood will help somewhat, but it's mainly the the movement of the muscles. As the muscles contract and relax, it creates a little bit of a pumping action to move the lymph the lymph system, the lymph through the lymphatic system to help improve that flow and pull toxins out of your body. Also, especially aerobic exercise helps to increase your basal metabolic rate. This is very important because this determines how well you're burning calories even when you're not doing much of anything. When you're doing intense exercise, of course, you're burning more calories, but you can't keep that up all day long. And so the basal metabolic rate is how well is your metabolism working when you're not doing much of anything, when you're just sitting at your desk or sitting watching TV, how many calories are you burning? So you're actually going to burn more calories if you have a higher basal metabolic rate when you're not doing much of anything than you would if you weren't exercising regularly. Again, this is more aerobic exercise that increases this BMR. As you exercise, it increases your hormone function, especially your thyroid and your adrenals, helps to burn off stress, which helps your adrenal glands. It helps the circulation to your glands, and it helps your hormones to just function better, and so your thyroid will work better, and your whole body will function better with your hormones. Also, um, as you exercise, and this would be more like the anaerobic kind of exercise, like the weightlifting, things like that, it increases muscle tone and muscle mass. It's the muscles that are doing the main job of burning the fat. And so if you have more muscle mass and better muscle tone, you're more likely to burn off fat. And of course, exercise helps to get more circulation to your brain, so that can help your attitude, reduce stress, and give you a greater sense of well-being. One thing we've talked about is trapped emotions. This is a term coined by Bradley Nelson, who wrote the emotion code. That's something we do in our office to clear trapped emotions. So trapped emotions, as you know, these are times where you have not processed an emotion properly, and so you have stored the energy of an emotion, mainly a negative emotion, in your body that affects you both physically and physiologically. Um, and so that can interfere with hormone production and utilization. As I talk about in my emotion code class, one of the things that really convinced me that the emotion code even works well is when I helped a young girl with a thyroid problem and got her thyroid working better. And so I know that clearing trapped emotions can help your hormonal system. It can also help with cravings or when you're not eating it appropriately, like when you're eating too much or at the wrong times, things like that. If we clear trapped emotions, it can give you some strength along those lines. It can help your body not want to retain fat so much because the subconscious mind is somewhat in control of how much fat it's retaining. And so in order to let go of the fat, sometimes we have to clear trapped emotions associated with that. So once we identify them, they can be easily released. And so it's not a hard thing to do, but it is something you can do on yourself, although it's better if you have a third party who's experienced with it to help you with that. You may also have these underlying deep emotional resonances. They're basically the same thing as trapped emotions, except they pretty much fill your body rather than affecting a specific part of your body. And we've talked about this before. Why do you need the fat? So it can be difficult to lose weight because you may have inner motivations to hold on to the fat. We've talked about how you can have different kinds of conflicts in your subconscious mind. So consciously you may want to lose the excess weight, but subconsciously um, you may want to not be so attractive, or there could have been some abuse or something else going on that made it so that you don't really want to be more attractive. And so We need to work on finding and releasing those things. So you can ask yourself, how does how does being overweight benefit me? And so this is something that I think is an important question to ask because, as we talked about, if you don't have any motivation to have the excess weight, you probably wouldn't be able to you wouldn't have that excess weight. So you may not know consciously, but there's always some kind of benefit, I think. So we want to find and correct the motivation for holding on to excess weight and release that so you can lose the excess weight. Okay, so let's talk about the timing of eating, how much you eat when. So based on my research, this is the kind of balance that I see is ideal. I have heard it said that breakfast should be your biggest meal of the day, but I don't know that I agree with that. Most people can't handle a huge amount of food first thing in the morning. It should be um, a fairly good sized meal to get you going with your day. I see that a lot of people who have weight problems tend to skip breakfast. They eat a quick lunch on the run and then eat a large dinner and sometimes don't stop eating until they go to bed at night. Of course, that's totally the wrong balance because then you're getting most of your calories right before you go to bed, um, which is when you don't need them. So you need a good breakfast in the morning to get your metabolism going, to get your body functioning well, get your mind engaged. But lunch should probably be the biggest meal of the day. This is when your body is ready for more food. You want something to sustain you through the afternoon. And so that should be your big meal. So dinner should be light, not a whole lot of heavy foods. Shouldn't be a huge amount of food. And also try not to eat within 2 hours of going to bed. If you need a bedtime snack, plan ahead and have something that's not a lot of carbs or sugar. Have, like maybe some nuts or cottage cheese or something like that, just so you're not going to bed hungry, but not something that's going to weigh you down and have a lot of excess calories that you don't need when you're sleeping. Now here's a crazy idea. Drinking cream for breakfast, just drinking straight cream. Now this is actually something that came to me from one of my nutritional mentors. Um, he talks about a lot about the paleo diet, and he's a proponent of the ketogenic diet. As you know, as we talked about before, the ketogenic diet is high fat, high protein, low carbs. And cream, I'm talking about the straight whipping cream, heavy whipping cream. It's just fat. There's no protein, there's no sugar. Um, it is a lot of calories, but it's just fat. And as we talked about before with regard to hormones, remember insulin is what tells your cells to let in the fat. And so um, fat does not cause a spike in insulin. That's carbohydrates, especially sugars, but all carbohydrates cause insulin spike. And so he was recommending having just straight cream for breakfast. And he's had a number of people doing that and losing weight quite well with it. And actually, I've been doing it myself. Not every morning. I don't think I would want it every morning, but once or twice a week I'll do this. So the key is to have just a cup of cream, nothing else. You could have a little bit of protein with it, but like people were asking, could we have like some fruit with it? That would not be so bad. Like have some berries or peaches or something like that, and have the cream over that. But no, that would be terribly wrong because you don't want any carbohydrates. So if you have any carbohydrates with this, any kind of sugars, no matter even natural sugars, they're gonna cause a little bit of an insulin spike, and then all of that fat you're taking into your body will then go into the cells. So as long as you don't have any carbohydrates with it, this fat that you're drinking, this cream, is actually not fattening. Sounds crazy, but it works. And fat is actually very sustaining. And so if you drink a cup of cream for breakfast, you're not going to get hungry as fast as if you had something like cereal or toast or juice or something like that. So I recommend trying this sometime. Like I say, just get something, get some heavy whipping cream. Read the label. Make sure it has no sugar, no milk, because sometimes there's things mixed in with them. They're not just pure cream, but just pure cream. Try that sometime. So what are your rules for eating? We have to find something that's sustainable. So um, these are the things that I'm recommending. So you can be more strict at first. Um, you want to kind of kickstart your weight loss, get things going, see some success. It helps to motivate you, and so you can be more strict at first. But over the long haul, you want to find something that's sustainable. You want to have um, an eating regimen that will fit your lifestyle, a healthy lifestyle, but that you can maintain. Like we've said in the beginning, this is not some crash diet. This is not something that you're going to just do for a little while and then go back to the way you were before. If you do that, then of course you're going to go back to the way you were before. So one thing you want to do, make sure that you avoid added sugars as much as you possibly can. You should avoid too much sugar, period, but especially added sugars. So you wouldn't want to just eat fruit all day because that would be just too much sugar. But just avoid added sugars, processed foods, sweets, candies, ice creams, things like that. Um, and then limit your carbs. Don't have a lot of bread or cereals or potatoes. Just limit those. Don't overeat or undereat. And so if you have a problem with portion control, then you'll need to work on that. Sometimes what can be helpful, especially older people, have a thing where they feel the need to always clear off everything on their plate. And maybe you were raised that way. Maybe you were scolded if you didn't clear everything off your plate. You were rewarded if you did. And so sometimes we don't um, take the right amount. Sometimes our eyes are bigger than our stomach and we take too much, but then we feel compelled to eat the rest of it. And so watch your portion control. But as we've also talked about, don't undereat either. If you're going around starving all the time, that's not sustainable and it's not healthy. And it puts your body into starvation mode. Now, you can you have to live your life. You can deviate once in a while. Um, if there's a special occasion and and you don't eat properly, then it's okay. Just don't make it a regular habit. If these special occasions are 3 or 4 times a week or last more than one day, then it's not really a special occasion. It's more like an excuse. So don't do that. So I'm talking about the rare things, like maybe once a month or something like that. Okay, let's talk about pH, the acidity of your blood. We need to alkalize. You may have heard before that we have too much acidity in our diet, and acidity is linked to a lot of problems. Now, Dr. Libby Weaver, she wrote a book called Accidentally Overweight, and there's quite a few things in this system that I've gotten from her book. She's in New Zealand. She lectures a lot in Australia and New Zealand. She's mainly into women's health and women's weight loss. But I really like the things that she says. So I like this quote: when it comes to body fat loss, it is the pH of our blood that can make the biggest difference. And so we want to bring it to a higher pH, a more alkaline, less acid. One thing that can help with that is if you start the day with a half a lemon squeezed into water. Lemon, especially in water, is one of the things that, even though lemon acidity, um, it will help you to become more alkaline. So that will help. Now, I don't really recommend doing this on the day that you have a cup of cream for breakfast. Um, that would, I don't think your stomach would do very well with that. Green vegetables helps to alkalize your blood. We find that meat tends to be cause more acidity, but green vegetables will help that. And one thing you don't want to do is combine meat and starch. And so if you've ever looked at food combining, which is something I think you should check on if you've never heard of such a thing, but the combinations of food that we eat are important. Now, in our society, we often combine meat and starch. Most people, they can't imagine not having them together, like steak and potatoes, lunch meat and bread, hamburgers, hot dogs. We are always combining meat and starch. The problem is that starch, it requires a higher pH to break it down, whereas meat requires a lower pH. It needs more acid in your stomach to break it down. And so then what happens is that when you combine them, you don't get enough of an acid response, and then you don't break down the meat like you should, and then it doesn't get digested very well, and it putrefies in your intestines. It's not healthy. So um, we still do it sometimes, but one of the things I found is that, like in my own lunch, like when I bring a lunch, I used to always have sandwiches. Now I get the lunch meat, like a healthy kind of lunch meat, not the one that has a lot of additives and things like that. And I'll just put that in a baggie instead of between two pieces of bread. And so I found that very helpful. And of course, no soda pop. Um, Soda pop is one of the things that's creating a lot of acidity in people's bodies. And so we've talked about this before that this you don't want the sugar of a regular sugary soda pop, and you don't want the artificial sweeteners of diet soda. And so it's best just to stay away from it. Okay, let's talk more about toxicity. It should come as no surprise to you that we live in a very toxic environment. There are toxins everywhere. It's in the carpeting, in the upholstery, in the air that we breathe, in what our cars give off, the plastics. There's toxins everywhere, and it makes it hard on our bodies. Toxicity interferes with our physiology. We talked about in the hormone presentation a little bit about how toxins can interfere with our hormonal balance and with our ability for our cells to properly use and recognize the hormones. It can bog down the liver. Of course, any kind of drugs or poisons or toxins in your body, your liver's got to process those to get them out of your body. And as it bogs down the liver, then it can't take care of hormones very well either. So we've talked about this a little bit about this in the hormone section also, about how if the liver is not doing its job, then it can't break down estrogen very well, and so estrogen tends to build up in our system, and estrogen builds up more fat. It also builds up muscle, but it builds up fat, and um, and it also makes it so our thyroid we're not able to use the thyroid hormone like we should. Um, One of the things our body does in order to keep toxins away from our vital organs is to put it out away from the center of our body. That's where we get subcutaneous fat. This is most of the fat that you see on your body that's underneath your skin. And so this is one of the reasons why your body puts it there, is to keep the toxins away from the vital organs, because the fat will store toxins. It's a good place to stick toxins because we're not using that so much. So if it can't get rid of it in the body, then it'll just stash it in fat. And so um, we want to detoxify so that our body doesn't feel the need for that fat, that subcutaneous fat to store toxins in. And then as you are losing weight, understand that your body's having to release toxins, and so make sure you're drinking lots of water and exercising and so forth to help move those toxins out of your body. There are all kinds of types of toxins out there. Heavy metals is one of them. Things like mercury and cadmium and lead. There's all kinds of heavy metals that really mess up our system. There's all kind of environmental toxins. And so I'm not going to list them all here, but there's all kinds of them out there, like the BPAs, the bisphenols that are in plastics. Uh, so the like the water bottles that we drink out of, that especially if you leave those water bottles sitting in the sun, that's going to release these BPAs into the water, and then you take it into your body. One of the things you want to make sure you don't do is microwave plastic, because that will take the toxins out of the plastic, put them into your food. Uh, it's probably best not to be microwaving at all. I know some people are very much down on microwaving, and I have seen some research that says, yeah, it's not good for you. Um, but if you do microwave, make sure you're microwaving in glass or the regular pottery kind of dishes uh, where you're not using plastic. And if you have a plastic like Glad wrap or something over the top of it, make sure you take that off before you put it in the microwave. So some things you can do to detoxify, of course, drink lots of water, flush it out of your system because your kidneys is part of your detoxing system. Magnesium will help. Magnesium is good for pulling out toxins and heavy metals. Um, I recognize that you take a good form of magnesium like magnesium malate or something like that. The magnesium oxide that are in the cheaper vitamins is not very effective, but um, like Dr. Dan Murphy, who I referred to earlier, he recommends like 500 milligrams of good magnesium every day. And so you take like 250 in the morning, 250 milligrams at night, and that's a good way to make sure you have plenty of magnesium in your system. Aerobic exercise, as we talked about, helps to move things through your body, and um, even your breath will help to clear out some toxins. You might want to try a liver cleanse. There's all kinds of liver cleanses out there. You can go to the health food store and get a prefab liver cleanse, or uh, you go on the internet and find recipes for different kinds of ones. They're not always very tasty. You have to mash up garlic and put it in olive oil and things like that. But anyway, there's different things you can do with that. But if you can do that once in a while, it'll help the liver to be healthier and to be able to deal with the toxins that are in the environment and help break down your hormones and so forth. Eat as many unprocessed foods as you can. Um, Try to stay away from things that are highly processed. They do not have good things in them. I saw it was a thing on YouTube where a guy was showing how General Mills and some of their cereals have trisodium phosphate, and this is a poison, and they've actually put it into their cereals, and so you want to make sure you're looking out for things like that. Anyway, the more processing the food goes through, the more likely they're adding chemicals in there that are not good for you. So watch out for those and try to eat healthy, like raw fruits and vegetables and um, things that are organic where you don't have a lot of pesticides and things like that. There are chelating supplements. Chelation is where it's like kind of like with a magnesium where it will pull it out of your system. It latches onto heavy metals and things like that and pulls it out of your system. And so I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on that right now, but you can check with the health food store and they can help you with things like that. So what is the number one enemy of weight loss? Um, as I've worked with people over the years, as a weight loss counselor and then as a chiropractor, um, as I think about what is the number one thing, I really don't think it's sugar or fat or calories or even being a couch potato. I think the number one enemy is discouragement. When you get discouraged, you just want to give up. Um, it kills your motivation. It drives you to eat comfort foods like chocolate and cake and ice cream, things like that. And it takes you off of your course, so you lose sight of your goals, and that's that can be very damaging to any kind of program that you're on. And this fear and this doubt that you start experiencing, it slows your progress. So it's something you need to watch out for. Discouragement is never a good thing. If you do slip up, and if you know go eat a cookie or even a bowl of ice cream or something like that, even if you go pig out on something, don't beat yourself up about it. Think about what drove you to it. If there are trapped emotions or something like that, then or if you're overly stressed, then let's work through that. Come see me. We can work through that. Um, One thing you can do is when you get off track, especially when you've been eating right for a while and then you eat something wrong, you usually feel it right away, and it does not feel good. And so focus on that. Focus on the negative physical reactions that you had. You don't want to associate ice cream and cookies, things like that, with feeling good. That's what drives you to comfort foods to begin with. Is they soothe you emotionally, and they can make you feel better emotionally. But if you focus on the negative parts of it, it'll help you to be stronger the next time. So what's the number two enemy? Well, from what I've seen, it's the social aspect of it, family and friends. If you have a support system, it's very helpful. Now, in my situation, it's been much more effective because my children are grown up and gone, and so it's just my wife and I most of the time at our home, and we've been doing the program together, and so it's been working quite well for us. But in other families, I know that's not the case. And so, like, if you're the mom and you've got a bunch of kids and a husband that don't want to eat the way that you want to eat, it can be difficult. And so this is something we need to examine. So give this some thought. And I don't know that I have an easy answer for this because every situation is different. But how can you change your eating habits when those you're eating with and preparing for don't share your dietary goals? They don't want to eat the way you want to eat. So one thing you got to do is just avoid temptation when possible. Try not to try to avoid situations where you cannot resist it. Um, and remember that healthy eating is for everybody. If this were a crash diet, I would say, yeah, don't include your husband and your children. Um, but what we're talking about is healthy eating. And so even skinny kids, they need to eat healthier. Not, we're not talking about eating less, we're talking about eating right. And so um, I know sometimes it's hard to get everybody in your family on board with it, but um, the more you can get support from your family, the better you will do and the better they will do. And so strive to have healthy eating habits in your whole family and and help help your family. If you explain to your family what you're trying to do, a lot of times they will be supportive, especially with the older kids. So, of course, with the younger kids, you usually don't want to eat like they eat anyway, but you're going to do what you can to help make sure they eat properly. And then when they don't eat properly, hopefully it won't be so much of a temptation to you. So remember, when you step on the scale, remember this image. I want you to burn this image into your mind so that when you step on the scale, think about this. It doesn't matter if you remember all the things listed here. Just remember that when you step on the scale, you're not seeing 200 pounds of fat. You're seeing all of these things, everything that makes up your body. And remember that a sharp increase or decrease is usually a matter of inflammation or how much fluid your body is holding. So just remember that. So what do you do when the scale isn't cooperating? When you're stepping on the scale and you're not getting the kind of numbers you want to see, or it's not changing like it should, or even going up. Remember that image and take into account all of the factors that can make up your weight. And remember that when you step on the scale, what you're seeing is a snapshot of that moment of what you weigh. It may not mean a whole lot. It's just that particular moment of what's happening in your body. So just remember that. So then you think back, um, what have you been eating? Are there reasons for inflammation? Has there been any unusual stress? So there could be a lot of factors involved. And so just think back on those. Now we've talked about how often should you weigh yourself? And so there's lots of different opinions out there. This Dr. Libby Weaver, she's one of the ones that says you should never weigh yourself. Um, Looking at the scale is gives you a distorted picture of what's happening in your body, and it can be very discouraging. If you're building up muscle, remember muscle weighs more than fat, and you need the muscle in order to burn the fat. And so if you're building up muscle, that can be discouraging looking at the scale because you could be getting thinner and actually weighing more. um, there's lots of reasons for that scale to show what it does. Um, I know some people who say that you should weigh yourself every day. That this is one thing you could do. Um, if you wanted to, if you wanted to do that, what I would recommend is make up a chart and write down your weight every day, along with factors that you think that contributed to your weight being up or down or staying the same. And make note of these things. And then you can, and so then you don't really take any one day real seriously. But what you do is you look at the trends. And so that's the one that good thing that could come from weighing yourself every day is you find the trends and you say, okay, it was trending up, it's trending down, and here were the reasons for it. And you get kind of a better feel for what's happening with your body. Um, you could just weigh yourself once a week. Um, that's what I like to do. I like to weigh myself once a week, and then even still, once a week I look at, okay, what are the things that would cause the fluctuations? And so just keep those things in mind. If it persists and it's harder to see exactly the obvious reasons, or if you know the reasons and can't do anything about it, then see me. I would recommend repeating the food log for a week, and that will help you to maybe flush out some issues that maybe you weren't thinking of at the time when you're weighing yourself, and so it helps you be more aware. But you can see me, and I can. Um, there may be some emotional issues we need to work on, or some physiological things we need to balance, or so forth. Just see me, and we can take a look at that. So remember, it's not about your weight so much as about your health. And so excess weight is a symptom of poor physiology and or poor eating habits. So just keep that in mind. We're working on health, not just weight. And so don't be a food Nazi. Um, don't drive everybody crazy with your obsession about what you should and shouldn't eat. I want you to be enjoying your life. Be disciplined. Um, this, in other words, exercise some willpower, um, but don't go over the edge with it, because that's another thing that we don't want to destroy relationships over it, nor do we want you to be so obsessed with it that it just rules your life. I want you to enjoy life. So remember, it's not just about willpower. we do need some self-discipline. We need education and planning in order to make this work right. You can't just be willy-nilly about it and just eat whatever you feel like it, as whenever you feel like it. Um, it does take some self-discipline. However, if you're having to use extreme willpower to eat and function as you know you should, then you're not going to be able to keep it up long enough to see lasting results. Even if you see results, you won't be able to keep it up, and you'll just go back to the old patterns, and the weight will come back. And so, um, like I said, you need some willpower, but if you're really having to just grit your teeth and um, just try to pass that pastry or avoid that chocolate, whatever it is, then we need to work on that. One thing I've found is that um, the more I distance myself from sugar, the less I want it. Um, Sugar is addictive, and so when you start to break free of it, you start losing that addiction, and then you don't want it as much. And so it will get easier as you go along. But if you do have cravings or improper eating and other things that are out of control, see me and let's work through some of those things with the EVOX, trapped with emotion code and so forth. So it is about health and joy. Make sure you're getting adjusted regularly to keep your body functioning like it should, keep your nervous system healthy, work on those trapped emotions. If you haven't been to the emotion code class already, I recommend that you come to that second Thursday of each month at 6:30, or you can watch it on YouTube. I do have it posted. So remember, weight is a symptom of your physiology, your eating habits, your emotions, and the attitudes that you have toward your body. And so if those are healthy, you will have a healthy body with a healthy weight. So I wish you luck as you go through this, and if you have any difficulties or questions, let me know. So remember that lasting change often comes slowly. Um, if, if it if you're not seeing the fast results you'd like to see, just keep in mind that usually the slower changes are more lasting. So eat and live in harmony with your ideal weight. Whatever you've been weighing lately is in harmony with the way that your physiology is functioning, the way you're eating, the way you're feeling toward yourself, about your emotions and everything. So if you get it in harmony with your ideal weight, then that's the weight you will maintain, and you'll be much happier with that. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'll be happy to help you in any way that I can.